My wife texted me at 1 a.m. I'm at the club with my ex. Come pick me up. Tell me, what kind of woman sends that to her husband? I'm Coworker, 42 years old, the guy who pays every bill, fixes every leak, and believed 8 years of marriage actually meant loyalty. That night, I was sitting in my quiet Texas living room, thinking she was out with her girlfriends. Then that message popped up, like a boot to the chest. I read it 3 times. Same words, same betrayal. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. And trust me, everything changed the second I saw it. Before we go on, subscribe and tell me what you would have done in my place. After that text, you probably need to know who I am. I'm not some wild guy, not the jealous type, not a drama addict. I'm a numbers and steel kind of man. Structural engineer. I make sure buildings don't fall down. Pretty ironic, considering what collapsed in my own house. I live up in the suburbs north of Dallas. Little 3-bedroom place, small yard, F-150 in the driveway, grill out back. Saturdays were Costco runs, lawn mowing, burgers on the grill if the weather was good. Nothing fancy, just solid. I didn't grow up with much. No trust fund, no safety net. I clawed my way up. Night classes, overtime, taking every crap job that got me one step closer. When I met Lena, we had nothing but a cheap couch and a mattress on the floor. We built from there. Together, or so I thought. I paid every bill on time, kept the lights on, gas in both cars, put food on the table, even when I was dead tired. Birthdays, anniversaries, her bad days, I showed up. I wasn't perfect, but I was there. Every single damn day. And somehow, one day that stopped being enough for her. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when just seeing her name on my phone made my whole day lighter. We met at this run-down little diner off the highway. I was eating alone after a late shift, greasy burger, burnt coffee. She walked in with a friend, laughing too loud for a place that dead. I remember thinking, she doesn't belong in this dump. Then she caught me looking and smiled like she'd known me for years. First date, same diner. I didn't have money for nice restaurants. We split fries, drank cheap coffee, talked until the waitress started stacking chairs. She said no one ever really listened to her before. I believed her. Maybe I needed to. I proposed in the park with a simple ring, nothing Instagram-worthy. My hands were shaking, my voice cracked, and she said yes, like I'd just handed her the world. Our wedding was small. Family, a few friends, borrowed decorations, rented suit. Best day of my life. No question. I still remember her eyes when we said our vows. Back then, I thought I was her forever. Turns out for her, forever had an expiration date. Forever doesn't snap in one night. It frays. I can't even tell you the exact day it started. It was little things, stupid things, the kind you feel guilty for noticing. One evening I picked up Lena's phone to hand it to her. Screen lit up. Face ID required. She'd added a lock. New password. No joke. No, hey, I changed it. Just done. I told myself, everyone locks their phone now, Cole. Don't be paranoid. She started talking more about old college friends, names I'd never heard before. Suddenly there were group chats, reunions, birthdays that somehow hadn't happened in the last 8 years until now. A lot of, I'll only be out for a couple hours. A lot of getting home way past that. Her closet changed next. New dresses, tighter, shorter, louder. Stuff she never wore with me. Tags from stores I knew weren't cheap. When I'd say, "That's new, huh?" she'd laugh it off. Just trying to feel young again. Our dinners went from talking, to scrolling, to silence. Forks on plates, TV noise in the background, 2 roommates sharing a table. I felt something was off, but I gaslit myself before she ever did. And then his name showed up. We were doing the dishes one night, just another quiet Tuesday, when she dropped it. "Do you remember me telling you about Darren from college?" she asked, almost too casual. I knew the name in a vague way. Old story, old mistake. The guy who cheated on her, broke her heart, made me look like the safe choice. I nodded. "Yeah, the jerk." She laughed, But it wasn't a bitter laugh. It was soft, nostalgic. "He wasn't all bad," she said. "We were stupid back then." Something in my chest tightened. Nothing dramatic, just a small twist. I rinsed a plate slower than I needed to. Over the next few weeks, his name kept popping up. "Ran into Darren online today." Darren sent a funny meme. Darren said he might be in town soon. Every time I gave the same answer, a half smile, a shrug. "Oh yeah? Cool." And every time I wrote it down in the back of my mind like a red mark on a blueprint. "He's just an old friend," she told me when I finally asked. "Relax, Cole, it's harmless. But that name kept coming up, like a song stuck in your head you never wanted to hear. And deep down, I knew the volume was only going to get louder. The volume did get louder. One Friday I came home and found Lena in front of the bedroom mirror, trying on a dress I'd never seen. Tight, low cut, short. The kind of thing you wear to be noticed, not to be comfortable. Makeup spread out on the dresser, new perfume in a fancy glass bottle. She turned, did a little spin. "Be honest, do I still look good?" I smiled because she did. She's always been beautiful. "You look great," I said. "You don't need all that to prove it." She rolled her eyes. "It's not about you, Cole. I just need to feel like I'm still attractive, like I still have it." There was a beat there, a gap I didn't know how to cross. She asked why I never wanted to go out with her. Bars, clubs, downtown nights. I told her I was tired, that loud music and drunk strangers weren't my thing at 42. I'd rather grill in the backyard, watch a game, have a beer at home. She laughed, but not the nice kind. "You're too serious, Cole." She walked past me, smelling like a different life. That night I started wondering if stability was boring to her. A couple weeks later, she came into the kitchen already dressed up. Same kind of dress, same perfume, different energy. "I'm going out with the girls tonight," she said, grabbing her small purse. "Downtown. Don't wait up." I pulled my wallet out of habit, peeled off some cash, set it on the counter. "Have fun," I told her. And I meant it, or at least I wanted to. She smiled, snapped a quick selfie in the hallway mirror, and then another one on the porch. A minute later, my phone buzzed. It was that selfie. Short dress, red lips, caption, "Don't miss me too much," little winking emoji. I stood in the doorway and watched her walk down the driveway to her Uber. Heels clicking on the concrete, porch light on her shoulders, phone already in her hand. She didn't look back. The door closed behind me and the house changed. Same walls, same furniture, but it felt empty in a new way. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your stomach tighten for no clear reason. If I'd known that was the last night I saw her as my wife, I would have looked a little longer. But I didn't know, so I just locked the door and pretended everything was fine. After she left, I tried to do the usual guy thing, pretend nothing was bothering me. I flipped on a football game, dropped down on the couch, grabbed a beer. Classic Saturday night, right? But I couldn't tell you who was playing, or what the score was. The players moved, the crowd roared, but it all felt far away, like I was watching someone else's life. I checked the time, 11:42 p.m. She'd said, "Don't wait up." I told myself I wouldn't. Still, I picked up my phone and typed, "You heading home soon?" Then I erased it. Typed again, "You good?" Erased that too. Finally, I settled on, "You on your way?" Hit send. Message delivered. No reply. The house was too damn quiet. No hairdryer in the bathroom, no music from the bedroom, just the soft hum of the fridge and the AC kicking on and off. And over all of it, the ticking of that old wall clock in the kitchen. 1, 2, 3, every second dragging. I stared at my phone like I could force it to light up. It didn't. That silence was louder than any argument we'd ever had. And just when I started to tell myself I was overthinking, my phone finally buzzed. I grabbed the phone so fast I almost dropped it. One new message from Lena. I opened it, expecting something simple. "On my way." Phone died. Some harmless excuse I could swallow and move on with. Instead, I read, "I'm at the club with my ex. Come pick me up." I thought maybe my eyes were tired. I read it again. Same words. Third time. Still there. No typo. No just kidding follow-up. My first instinct was to soften it. Maybe she means some other ex. Maybe she's drunk and trying to make a weird joke. Maybe the ex is part of a story I'm not getting. But here's the thing. Lena's not stupid. She knew exactly what those words meant. She knew what button she was pushing, what picture that sentence paints in a husband's head at 1 in the morning. This wasn't clumsy. This wasn't careless. This was precise. I sat there, phone in my hand, feeling something in my chest shift. Not explode, shift. Like a beam cracking in a building you thought was solid. You don't do that to your partner. You just don't. And in that moment, whether I admitted it or not, something between us was already over. I stared at that text for a full minute before I moved. Then it was automatic. Shoes on, wallet, keys, phone, front door locked. Walked to the truck like a man heading to work, not to the scene of his own humiliation. I climbed into my F-150, turned the key, and just sat there for a second with my hands on the wheel. No radio, no podcast, just the engine rumbling and my own breathing louder than it should have been. On the way downtown, the roads were mostly empty. Streetlights passed over the hood like slow camera flashes. My brain went into this twisted loop. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's a stupid joke. Maybe she's drunk and doesn't realize how it sounds. Maybe X means some harmless guy, not Darren. I kept trying to soften it, to round off the sharp edges of what she'd sent me, and then all the little things I'd ignored lined up in my head. The locked phone, the new dresses, the late nights, he's just an old friend. I realized I hadn't just trusted her. I'd been defending her in my own mind for months. I kept giving her the benefit of the doubt, while killing my own. Downtown Dallas was buzzing in a way my neighborhood never is. Bars lit up, people laughing on sidewalks, cars double parked like no one cared about rules anymore. I pulled into the lot next to the club she'd pinned. You could feel the bass in your chest before you even opened the door, like someone knocking from the inside of your ribs. Neon sign, line at the entrance. Girls in heels holding their phones like oxygen tanks. Guys dressed like they were all auditioning for the same music video. Not my world. I killed the engine, sat there for a moment looking at the building. Somewhere in there, my wife was dancing with her ex and texting me like I was the designated driver. I walked up to the door in my jeans, old boots, and hoodie that still smelled like work and home. The bouncer gave me a quick up and down, glanced at my ID, and just waved me through. I don't think he saw me as a threat, just another tired guy stepping into the noise. Inside was red and purple light, sweat, perfume, spilled drinks, bodies pressed together like they were all afraid to be alone. It felt like walking into a different universe, one she never invited me into. I scanned the room, slow at first, then faster. It's crazy how you can pick out one person in a sea of strangers when your whole life is tied to their face. And then I saw her, middle of the dance floor, lights hitting her just right, hair down, head thrown back, laughing like the world had never asked anything hard of her. She looked free, lighter than I'd seen her in months. Behind her, right up against her, was Darren. I knew it was him even before my brain caught up. Taller than me, gym body, shirt half unbuttoned like he was allergic to respect. His hands were on her hips, thumbs hooked just under the line of that dress she'd bought to feel attractive again. They weren't just dancing, they were glued together, moving slow to a loud song, bodies talking in a language that doesn't need words. Her phone was in her hand earlier when she texted me. Now? Now she didn't even glance at it. She wasn't looking at the door. She wasn't looking for me. She moved like I didn't exist, like I was just a name on her phone bill. I don't know how long I stood there watching. Could have been 10 seconds, could have been 10 years. Something in me went very, very quiet. No scene, no shouting, no pushing through the crowd to rip them apart like in some cheap movie. Just this cold, steady clarity settling in. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. I opened the camera, raised it, and for half a second I hesitated. Then I turned on the flash. One click. The light snapped across the room, white, harsh, honest. It froze them in place for a single frame, his hands on her, her body pressed back into him, both of them caught in the middle of the lie. The flash died, but the image stayed. Lena's eyes flew open. She turned her head, scanning, and found me. Across the dance floor, just standing there. No drink in my hand, no smile, no anger, just done. In that split second, I saw it in her eyes. Joy from the high, shock at seeing me, and fear. Not fear of losing me, fear of getting caught. I put the phone down, turned around, and started walking away. After the flash and that look, there was nothing left to say. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and turned around. No dramatic pause, no one-liner, no, how could you? Just turned. Behind me, the music kept pounding. People kept dancing. Drinks kept spilling. Life went on like my marriage hadn't just flatlined in the middle of a crowded club. Somewhere in the noise, I heard my name. Faint at first, then sharper. Cole! I knew her voice even when it cracked. I didn't stop. Didn't look back to see if she was pushing through the crowd or just standing there frozen. My hands pushed open the door and the cold night air hit me in the face. It felt cleaner out there, honest. No smoke, no perfume, no lies. I walked across the parking lot, the bass from inside dulling with every step. By the time I reached my truck, it was just a vibration under my feet. I got in, shut the door, and for the first time that night, everything was quiet. I didn't yell. I didn't cause a scene. Sometimes, being strong means walking away, and that's exactly what I did. I started the engine and pulled out of that lot like I'd just finished a shift, like I was heading home to the same life I'd left. But I wasn't. The highway was almost empty, just a few headlights in the distance. Streetlights slid over the hood and across the windshield in long, tired streaks. It felt like driving through a tunnel with no clear end. I gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles went white. I could feel my pulse in my fingers. My jaw hurt from how hard I was clenching it. I did what I've always done when something breaks. I stepped back from it in my mind, like a cracked beam or a buckling wall. I tried to analyze it instead of feel it. Phone, text, club, ex, her body on his, my ring on my hand. I kept replaying it, hunting for some angle where it didn't mean what I knew it meant. Some loophole, some but maybe, that could save it. There wasn't one. Somewhere between downtown and our exit, it hit me. I wasn't losing a wife. I was losing an illusion. And once you see the crack in the foundation, you can't pretend the house is safe anymore. Pulling into the driveway felt wrong already. Same porch light, same trash can by the curb, same potted plant Lena kept forgetting to water. From the outside, nothing had changed. I unlocked the door and walked in. Everything was exactly how we'd left it. TV remote on the coffee table. Her throw blanket on the couch in that messy, half-folded way she always left it. The mug she'd used earlier, a ring of old coffee at the bottom, lipstick stain on the rim. Our wedding photo hung over the TV, me in a cheap suit, her in a simple dress, both of us smiling like we'd beaten the odds. I used to love that picture. Tonight, it looked like a lie we'd framed and centered. I stood in the middle of the living room and felt disconnected, like I'd broken into somebody else's life. Same furniture, same walls, same smell of home-cooked meals and laundry detergent. But it didn't feel like home. Not anymore. Our home didn't feel real anymore. It felt like a stage, and I'd just seen what happens backstage. Once you see the strings, the magic's gone, and I knew I wasn't staying in this play much longer. I went straight to the bedroom, not to sleep, but to work. Top shelf of the closet, old shoebox full of paperwork. Stuff you hope you never really need but keep anyway. I dragged it down, dumped it on the bed. Deed to the house, insurance policies, car titles, health forms, birth certificates, all the boring proof that a life exists and is somewhat in order. I flipped through stack after stack, looking for one thing. There it was. Small white rectangle, slightly bent at the corner. Martin Reyes, family law, phone number, email, clean black letters on clean white card. A year ago, a guy at work had slid it across my desk. He'd just gone through a nasty divorce. Good lawyer, he'd said. Then he smirked. Just in case, man. We'd both laughed, like it was dark humor, not a possible future. I sat on the edge of the bed, card between my fingers, feeling its weight even though it weighed almost nothing. Back then, it was a joke. Tonight, it was a lifeline. I didn't know exactly what came next, but I knew this. Whatever happened, I wasn't going to pretend this marriage was unbroken anymore. I took the card, went to the kitchen, and opened my laptop at the same table where we'd eaten 100 quiet dinners. The screen lit up, asking for my password like it was any other night. I opened my email and started a new message. To Martin Reyes. Subject, consultation. My fingers hovered over the keys for a second, then started typing. Martin, my name is Coworker. A colleague of mine gave me your card last year. Tonight I discovered my wife at a nightclub with her ex. I have attached a photo taken at 12:23 a.m. as well as a copy of the message she sent asking me to pick her up from that location. I kept it clean. Straight facts. No, I'm shaking. No, my chest feels like it's caving in. I wrote about 8 years of my marriage the way I'd write about a cracked support beam, location, cause, visible damage. I attached the picture from the club, sat there looking at the thumbnail of my wife in another man's hands. Then I deleted 3 lines I'd written about how much I'd loved her, left the rest. Hit send. I wrote about my marriage like it was just another project file. Maybe that's how I survived that night. Once the email was gone, something in me clicked over to work mode. Evidence. Documentation. That's how you protect a structure when it's about to be tested. I grabbed my phone and opened our text thread. Screenshot of the message. I'm at the club with my ex. Come pick me up. Saved it. Backed it up to the cloud. Then another backup, just in case. I opened the camera roll, pulled up the photo from the club. Export, upload, duplicate. I treated it like a file on a job site. Critical, ugly, necessary. Next, I logged into our bank accounts. Joint checking, savings, the mortgage portal. Wrote down balances, account numbers, dates. It felt mechanical and cold, like I was doing inventory on my own life. Somewhere in the middle of all that, my phone started buzzing. Lena. Call after call. Her name lighting up the screen over and over, vibrating across the table. Then texts. Long ones, short ones. Where did you go? We need to talk. Please answer. I didn't open them. Didn't read more than the preview line. My phone kept screaming her name. I let it die in my hand. That was the moment I chose distance over chaos. And there was no going back from that either. At some point, exhaustion beat adrenaline and I just sat there staring at the dark window. Phone face down. Laptop screen dimmed. The kind of dead quiet that only exists between midnight and morning. A soft ping broke it. New email. It was from Martin. Cole, I'm sorry you're going through this, he wrote. From what you've described and the evidence attached, your case is fairly straightforward from a legal standpoint. Fairly straightforward. My marriage, my life, 8 years. He laid it out in clean, calm sentences. We could file for a no-fault divorce. No need to prove adultery in court where I live, but the photo was helpful leverage if things turned ugly. He attached the initial forms, intake, financial disclosure, basic background. At the end, just one line of personal advice. Don't talk to her tonight. Sleep if you can. Let me handle this in the morning. I leaned back in the chair, looking at those words. On paper, it was simple. Boxes to tick, forms to sign, steps to follow. In my chest, it felt like demolition day. You spend years building something, and in one night you sign off on taking it down. The house was dark, silent, but I wasn't ready to sleep, or cry, or scream. I just needed something to do with my hands. I walked to the kitchen like a ghost and started making coffee. Stupid, I know. Who drinks coffee at 3 a.m. after asking a divorce lawyer to destroy the life they built? But routine is comforting when everything else is chaos. I scooped the grounds, filled the water, hit the button, watched the red light blink. The smell filled the air, familiar, warm, completely out of place in that dead hour. I poured it into her favorite mug, the white one with the chipped lip. I don't know why I did that. I sat at the table, hands wrapped around it. Steam rose. My chest didn't. One sip. Bitter. Strong. Just like I used to make it for her. Then I pushed the mug away. I wasn't crying, but something in me was dripping slow, like that last bit of coffee left in the pot. I printed the forms while the sky was still black. Paper slid out of the printer one sheet at a time, each one another reminder this wasn't just a bad dream I'd wake up from. I spread them out on the kitchen table, the same spot we used to leave birthday cards and grocery lists. Name, address, date of marriage, date of separation, reason for dissolution. I wrote irreconcilable differences. Funny phrase. Sounds so clean for something that feels this dirty. Then the financial stuff. Assets, debts, accounts. I knew most of it by heart. I'm the one who always handled the bills. Seeing our life reduced to numbers and lines on a form was its own kind of punch. When I was done, I stacked everything into a neat pile, slid it into a plain folder. No drama, no labels on the outside. I set that folder dead center on the table where she couldn't miss it when she walked in. Then I took off my wedding ring. It had been on my finger so long the skin under it was lighter. I turned it once, looked at it, then laid it gently beside the folder. I left my ring next to the paperwork. A period at the end of a sentence she chose to write. Once the folder and the ring were on the table, there was only one thing left to do: leave. I walked to the bedroom closet and pulled out a small duffel bag. Not the big suitcase, the small one. I wasn't running away for good, not yet. I was just getting out of the blast zone. A few shirts, a couple pairs of jeans, socks, underwear, toothbrush, deodorant. The bare minimum of a man starting over but not ready to admit it yet. Laptop, charger, the folder with my personal documents. That was it. I stood in the doorway and looked around the room one last time. Her side of the bed, the framed photo on the nightstand, the dent in the mattress where I'd slept every night thinking I was safe. I walked back through the house slowly, like I was memorizing it. The couch, the kitchen table, the stupid wall clock that had ticked through so many silent dinners. At the front door, I didn't leave a note. No explanation. No, we need to talk. I'd already said everything that needed saying with that folder. I locked the door behind me. I didn't slam it. I just locked it. Behind my old life. Then I drove toward a cheap motel near downtown, carrying what was left of my pride in the passenger seat. The motel was the kind of place you don't look at too hard. Faded carpet, buzzing light in the hallway, a bedspread that had seen better decades. But it had a lock, 4 walls, and most importantly, no memories. I dropped the duffel on the chair and sat on the edge of the bed. The mattress was too firm, the room too cold. I didn't turn on the TV, didn't open my phone. I just sat there, elbows on my knees, hands over my face. You'd think that's when I'd finally break down. Cry, scream, punch a wall, something dramatic to match the damage. But nothing came. No tears. Just this heavy, numb feeling, like somebody had turned the volume down on my whole body. I kept replaying the timeline in my head. The diner where we met, the first apartment, the wedding, the locked phone, the new dresses, the club, the text, the flash. How did we get here? I whispered into my hands. No answer, just the hum of the old AC unit. I'd moved past tears. This was deeper. It felt like losing a limb you can still feel. She was gone, but the pain of her was still attached to me. I didn't really sleep. I more blacked out for a couple hours. When I opened my eyes, pale light was leaking through the cheap motel curtains. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then the smell of stale air and industrial cleaner reminded me. My phone was still face down on the nightstand. I picked it up, and the screen lit up like a Christmas tree. Missed calls, unread texts, all from her. I opened the log. Dozens of calls between 2 and 5 a.m. voicemails I didn't listen to. Then the messages. Cole, where did you go? We need to talk. Please, I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. You're overreacting. Nothing happened. That word stopped me. Overreacting. I actually let out this short, ugly laugh. I'd watched my wife grind on her ex in a dress she put on in my house, after texting me like I was her Uber, and somehow I was the one overreacting. I closed the messages without replying, went straight to Martin's email instead. Right then I made a decision. No contact, no more late-night explanations, no more emotional negotiations. From now on, everything goes through the lawyer. She wanted to play games in a club. I was moving this to a courtroom. I wasn't there when she came home, but I've pieced it together. Lena told mutual friends part of it. Tom filled in some details. The rest I can see in my head like I was standing in the doorway. She got back just before sunrise. Makeup smeared, feet aching, stomach in knots. Probably expecting a fight, maybe a screaming match, maybe tears. Some big, emotional scene she could step into and try to control. Instead, she walked into silence. No truck in the driveway. No lights on. Just the soft glow from the kitchen window. She opened the front door, called my name, and nothing answered. Then she saw it. The folder on the kitchen table, laid out neat like everything else I do. No drama, no ripped-up photos, just paperwork. She walked closer, saw the title, Petition for Divorce. Next to it, my wedding ring. The small pale band of skin it had left on my finger, now just a memory. And clipped to the stack, the photo. Her, Darren, his hands on her, caught in that flash. I wasn't there, but I know exactly when she realized I wasn't playing. It wasn't when she saw the word divorce. It was when she saw her own choices printed in ink and pixels, staring back at her from my side of the table. I didn't talk to Lena in those first days. I didn't need to. The situation spoke loud enough. Tom was the one who kept me updated, whether I asked or not. "Man, she's freaking out," he said over the phone. "She's calling everybody." She called me nonstop at first, then my parents, my brother, our friends. The story she told them shifted depending on who it was. With some it was just dancing. With others, I was drunk, it didn't mean anything. And of course, Cole just left. He won't even talk to me. What she didn't know was this. That picture? It didn't stay just between us. A couple of people close to me saw it. I didn't blast it online, I'm not that guy. But the inner circle knew exactly why I walked. And something happened I didn't expect. People took my side. The quiet ones, the older ones, the ones who'd been through their own private wars. They all said the same thing. "I get it, man. I'd leave too." Lena kept reaching for me, poking at every emotional bruise, hoping I'd explode so she could call it a fight. She wanted a reaction. I gave her consequences instead. And that, more than anything, is what she never saw coming. While she spun in circles, I sat in Martin's office drinking bad coffee and talking strategy. He was calm, matter of fact. "We keep this clean," he said. "No screaming matches, no long emotional texts. We go by the book." He laid out options about the house, the cars, retirement accounts, things you never think about when you're saying vows. Then came the emails. Martin to Rachel Flynn, her attorney. Rachel to Martin. CCs, attachments, proposals. Client requests possession of the marital home. Client is willing to forego spousal support. Proposed division of assets attached. Not one line about love, betrayal, or 8 years of history. Just numbers, dates, signatures, the language of endings. I read every email, approved every response like I was reviewing blueprints. Check the structure, check the load, check for weak points. Every time we hit send, I felt something subtle shift inside me. Every email was another brick sealing off that part of my life. It was cold, mechanical, necessary. Lena kept trying to pull this back into the realm of feelings, calls, texts, friends carrying messages. I ignored all of it. This wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a project to close, and I was finally learning how to stop rebuilding what someone else kept setting on fire. As the legal stuff moved forward, the personal fallout started to ripple. I wasn't talking to Lena, but the world is small when you've shared a life that long. Tom would call me after running into people, not because I asked, but because he's that kind of friend. "Man, people are backing away from her," he said one night. Melissa told her straight up, "You screwed up." Some of the friends who used to be their friends quietly became my friends. A couple tried to stay neutral. Most didn't know what to say, so they said nothing. But almost all of them had seen the picture or heard enough to fill in the blanks. My parents wanted nothing to do with her. My mother, who'd once defended Lena every time we had a small argument, just shook her head and said, "No, not after that." I heard she was spending more nights alone. Less going out, fewer girls' nights, more sitting in the wreckage she'd created. The circle that used to clap for her got smaller and quieter. People asked me if I felt better knowing she was hurting. The honest answer? I didn't need revenge. Life was doing that job just fine. I just stayed out of the way and let reality talk to her louder than I ever could. Eventually, we hit this point in the process where the court requires mediation. Fancy word for you two have to sit in the same building and finalize how to split what's left. I showed up early at Martin's office in a plain button-down and slacks. Nothing special. Just a man there to close a chapter. When Lena walked in, it was the first time I'd seen her since that night at the club. She looked smaller. Not physically, though she had lost weight. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back like she hadn't had the energy to do anything with it. She avoided my eyes at first, then forced herself to look over. For a moment, it was almost like muscle memory kicked in. I wanted to ask if she was sleeping, if she was eating. Old habits die hard. But then I remembered the flash, his hands, her smile. We sat across from each other at the conference table, lawyers at our sides, a mediator in the middle trying to sound neutral. Papers, pens, water bottles. No one said love or trust or betrayal, just numbers and options. At one point, the mediator suggested a short break, asked if we wanted 5 minutes alone to talk. Seeing her hurt didn't change what she did. It just proved the cost was real. I nodded. 5 minutes is fine, I said, not for us to fix anything. Just for me to make it clear there was nothing left to fix. They put us in a smaller conference room down the hall. No windows, just a table, 4 chairs, a box of tissues someone thought was a good idea. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Just the sound of the air vent and the faint clicking of someone typing outside. Then she broke. "Cole, please," she started, voice cracking. "I am so sorry." Tears came fast, the kind you can't stage. I don't even recognize the person I was that night. It was a mistake, a stupid, drunk mistake. I let her talk. I didn't interrupt. I just watched. She went on about being lonely, feeling unseen, feeling old, wanting to feel desired again. About how Darren didn't mean anything, how it was just attention, how she never planned to leave me. "We can fix this," she said. "We can go to counseling, start over. I'll block him, change my number, whatever you want. Just don't throw away 8 years over one mistake." I took a breath. "A mistake," I said quietly, "is forgetting to pay a bill. A mistake is burning dinner." I looked her in the eye. "What you did was a choice, a series of choices." The room went very still. She shook her head, wiping tears with the back of her hand. "I know I hurt you," she said, "but people come back from worse. Couples survive affairs all the time. We can rebuild. You just have to give me a chance." I leaned back in the chair, not to create distance, just to keep myself steady. "Do you understand what you asked me to do?" I said. "You texted me to pick you up from a club while you were with your ex. You didn't just cheat. You rubbed my face in the possibility of it and expected me to drive you home." "I was drunk," she repeated. "I wasn't thinking." "That's the problem, Lena. You were thinking. You thought about the dress, the lies, the drive, the text. You thought about how it made you feel." I paused. "You just didn't think I deserved any respect in the process." She reached for my hand across the table. I didn't move. "I swear, Cole, I will spend the rest of my life making this right." I pulled my hand back slowly. "Your promises don't mean anything to me anymore." I stood up, walked to the door and opened it. Then I left her there, crying in a conference room, while I went back to finish ending our marriage. When it was all over, I shook Martin's hand, nodded at the mediator, and walked out of that office like a man leaving a job interview he didn't want in the first place. I got into my truck and just sat there, key in the ignition, engine off, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. You'd think that's when the anger would hit. The yelling at the dashboard, punching the steering wheel kind of anger. I waited for it. It didn't come. What came instead was air. Like someone had quietly opened a window in a room I didn't realize was suffocating me. My chest felt weird, empty, yeah, but also lighter. I pulled out my phone and texted Tom 2 words. "It's done." He replied almost immediately. "Proud of you, man. Come by later if you want a beer." I stared at that offer and realized I didn't want to talk. Not yet. For the first time in weeks, I just wanted to be alone without feeling abandoned. That night, back at my small rental place, I lay down on a bed that wasn't ours, just mine. I thought I'd feel rage. Instead, I felt relief, like a weight I didn't know I was carrying finally slipped off. And for the first time in a long time, I actually slept. The final step didn't look like a big moment. No dramatic courtroom scene, no judge banging a gavel while we stared each other down. It was a Thursday. Martin called me into his office to sign the last round of documents. Property division, final decree language, all the little legal knots tied up neat so nothing unraveled later. I sat at his desk, pen in hand, flipping through pages. My name, her name, case number, legal terms that now applied to me whether I liked them or not. Sign here and here, initial there. It took maybe 10 minutes. A few days later, I got an email from Martin with a PDF attached. The subject line was simple, final decree. I opened it on my phone sitting in the truck on my lunch break, scrolled past the boilerplate, the paragraphs, the sections. Then I saw it, near the top. Status, divorced. Just a word. One little label slapped on my life by a system that doesn't know me at all. I leaned back in the seat and let it sink in. 8 years of my life ended with a stamp and a signature. No fireworks, no meltdown, just paperwork. And a man in a parked truck realizing he's officially free and officially alone at the exact same time. After the decree, I moved out of the temporary rental and into a small apartment on the other side of town. 1 bedroom, modest, nothing special. But it was mine. No our, just mine. I spent the first weekend putting it together. Built the cheap shelves from the hardware store, hung curtains that actually matched, patched a couple of holes the last tenant left. It felt good to fix things that would actually stay fixed. Grocery shopping changed. No more family packs. I bought food for 1 man, eggs, chicken, rice, coffee, simple stuff. I started cooking more, not because I suddenly loved it, but because it felt like a way of taking care of myself instead of just existing. Work became a refuge. I poured myself into projects, stayed a little later, volunteered for the tough jobs. Watching something solid go from blueprint to reality helped. On some weekends, I drove back to see my parents. Sat on the porch with my dad, helped my mom with little things around the house. They didn't ask for details. They just made sure I left with a full stomach and a little less weight on my shoulders. I was alone, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel unseen. I was finally showing up for myself. A few months later, Tom and I met up at a bar we used to hit after work back in the day. Same sticky tables, same bartender, same flat screen showing some game I wasn't really watching. We clinked bottles, made small talk for a while. Work, traffic, the usual. Then he looked at me over his beer and asked the question everyone wants to ask, but most are too polite to. Any regrets? I didn't answer right away. I thought about the good years with Lena, the road trips, the inside jokes, the holidays where it actually felt like a family. I thought about the nights I'd lain awake next to her, imagining a crib in the other room, little feet on that hardwood floor. We used to talk about kids, I said quietly. I wanted them. I really did. Tom nodded, waiting. I took a slow breath. For a while, that was the part that hurt the most, realizing there'd be no little version of me and her running around. He watched me, eyes soft. And now? I took another sip, set the bottle down. Now, I said, I'm just grateful I found out who she was, before we had kids. He let out a low whistle. Yeah, he said. Yeah, man. That's a blessing in ugly wrapping. And that was the first time I truly believed it. Time passed. Not fast, not slow, just steadily. I didn't ask about Lena, but her name still drifted into conversations now and then. You can't erase 8 years that cleanly. One evening, Tom and I were grilling in his backyard. Kids running around, his wife laughing with a neighbor. Normal life. Between flipping burgers, he said, "You know she's in a tiny studio now, right? Other side of town." I didn't answer. He kept going, not to stir drama, just stating facts. She doesn't see many people anymore. Most of the old group backed off. Heard she started seeing some therapist. Dr. June. trying to work on herself or something like that. He took a sip of beer. She told Dana she knows she blew up the best thing she ever had, says she's trying to change, but obviously it's too late for you two. I just nodded. There was a time I would have wanted that, her admitting it, hurting, understanding exactly what she'd thrown away. I thought it would feel like justice. It didn't. I didn't feel happy hearing she was broken. I just felt done. Whatever work she was doing now, whoever she was trying to become, that was between her and her mirror. I was already walking in a different direction. A year or so later, a mutual friend got married, and against my first instinct, I said yes to the invitation. I almost didn't go. The idea of being in the same room as Lena again made my stomach tighten. But this friend had been good to me through the whole mess, and I wasn't going to skip his big day because of my past. I didn't go alone. There was a woman I'd been seeing casually, Emma. We weren't serious yet, but there was something there. She was kind, steady, asked direct questions and respected direct answers. I told her the whole story before we ever agreed to show up anywhere together. She still came. We walked into the reception hall, music playing, people dressed up, that happy buzz in the air. I was heading toward the bar when I saw her. Lena, on the other side of the room. She looked fine. Not glamorous, not destroyed. Just a woman in a dress, holding a drink, talking to someone I didn't know. Our eyes met for half a second. No wave, no smile, just recognition. I turned back to Emma, listened to what she was saying, and realized something. For the first time, I saw Lena as part of my past, not my problem. And that simple shift felt bigger than any legal document I'd ever signed. At the reception, there was this moment. Music playing, people laughing, glasses clinking. Emma was telling me a story about her coworkers, and I was half listening, half aware of this weight from across the room. I felt it before I saw it, Lena's eyes on me. I looked up and there she was, watching. Not angry, not smug, just waiting. Like she thought, this is where he walks over, we have that big emotional talk, we get some kind of closure. There was a small pocket of silence between us, even with 100 conversations going on around us. She took a half step in my direction. It was subtle, but I saw it. I had a choice in that second. I could go over there, reopen the wound, say all the things we'd both already said or heard, or I could leave it where it was, in the past. I turned back to Emma, answered her question, smiled at something she said. Not forced, just present. Later, I stepped outside alone for some air, looked up at the sky, felt the cool night on my face. There was nothing left to say that would change anything, for either of us. And sometimes, silence is the only honest ending you get. Driving home from that wedding, the road felt familiar, but I wasn't the same man who'd driven that highway a year before. I thought about everything, about Lena, about Emma, about the guys listening to this who've been where I was or are there right now. Here's what I've figured out. We're sold this idea that passion is everything. The butterflies, the sparks, the drama, the I can't live without you feeling. But that stuff is cheap. It burns hot and dies fast. What matters is commitment. Not the word, anyone can say it. The practice. Who shows up when you're sick? Who comes home when it's boring? Who doesn't go looking for excitement in someone else's arms when life gets quiet? Real love isn't fireworks. It's showing up when nobody's watching. And yeah, I get it. We're men. We're told to be strong, take it, work it out no matter what. But here's the truth most guys don't hear enough. A man's strength isn't measured by how much disrespect he can swallow. It's measured by where he draws the line and actually holds it. You don't have to hate someone to walk away. You just have to love yourself enough not to stay where you're being slowly erased. No partner, no love story is worth losing yourself over. So that's it. Not a revenge story, not a look how bad she is story. This is a story about limits. I couldn't control Lena, couldn't control the dress she put on that night, the text she sent, the way she moved with her ex in that club. I couldn't control the picture my phone captured or the lies she told herself to sleep at night. What I could control was what I did after I saw it. I keep coming back to 3 images. That photo in the club, her in his hands, caught in that flash. My ring on the kitchen table, next to the divorce papers. The door I locked behind me when I walked out of the house for the last time. Those were my lines in the sand. A man's got limits. Don't let anyone teach you you don't. You can't unsee betrayal. But you can choose what you do next. I chose myself. Maybe it's time you do too. If any part of this sounded like your life, drop a comment, share your story, or just say, I hear you. And if you want more real talk like this, stick around. You're not the only one who's been there, and you sure as hell don't have to stay there.